everyone, and welcome back to the Coach Dave Gran Turismo channel. I'm Grady, otherwise known as THD, and once again, I'm going to take you through this week's daily races on Gran Turismo 7, giving you some hints, tips, and telling you how to go as fast as you can to help you improve your driver rating. This week has some very interesting races, and first up, we're at Alsace in a Porsche Carrera 911 RSCS. Now, this is an old school Porsche, but it drives so beautifully. Let's jump into this lap guide then. I'll go through a slow-mo lap, picking out some of the key braking markers and accelerating markers. We'll go through a quick lap, and then we'll have a look at deltas. Let's jump into that lap now, and let me tell you how to go fast at Alsace. Here we are on the start-finish straight, heading towards turn 1, and we stop it right here. So we have 3 brake markers you can pick. So we've got the arrow, the one just before the 50 board on the left-hand side, if you want to use that. You've got the billboard on the right, which is literally bang on the money. However, I was using the traffic light at the end of the pit lane as my brake marker for this corner. Now, I would recommend here a wider line of attack. Now, the reason for that is you're trying to get the car rotated enough so you can just accelerate out of the corner. It's a long hairpin, technically, so if you go in too early, you're just going to understeer off to the outside of the circuit and onto the grass and become a lawnmower. So, I stick towards the left-hand side here. I'm going to drop down to second gear. I start to release the brakes then, and notice how the car rotates nicely there. Once I get towards the curb, I start accelerating out. I'm going to make sure I get towards the rev limiter and then change to third gear. Now, what you may find sometimes on the exit is you're struggling to get the car rotated. Just short shift to third gear and that should get the car turned. Alternatively, you may suffer some oversteer. Same thing, go to third gear, that will stop the oversteer. So we're going to turn into this fast left-hander now then. We're going to turn in initially, not go fully towards the left-hand side. So anyway, we see that Gran Turismo gantry up ahead, do we then get closer to the grass on the left. And here, now, we have the best angle of attack for this right-hander. So right above my head here, we have the tyre wall and also the first arrow. So I'm going to use a tyre wall on the left-hand side. Now, I'm not going to aim initially for the inside of the corner. I'm going to aim for the middle of the circuit. And the reason for this is, once again, I need a very, very late apex on this corner, a very wide line of attack, just to have a smooth exit and carry a bit more speed on the exit. So as I say, I'm going to aim towards the middle of the circuit. We have a white line in the middle, so that's what I'm aiming for now as I go on the brakes. It's only when I get to that point and I start to release the brakes, is then I'm going to turn in. So watch this now, down to third gear, and then we start to release the brakes as we hit it, and we stay in third gear now. Now, if you can stay above 60 miles an hour, brilliant. That's what I'm going to try and do right now. And this track is really wide, so it looks like you're going to understeer off, but look at this. Loads of room on the exit. We're going to head over towards the right-hand side now, as we need the maximum angle of attack for this left-hander. Now, we're going to pinpoint something here which is very unique that I don't normally pinpoint. A gear change marker. So this tree on the left, this is a gear change marker. So I've started turning now, and just before it hits the edge of my screen, I'm going to go to fourth gear. What that does is, obviously, just for a brief second, the car stops accelerating. So nose high. Now it goes like this. The car rotates a bit more because the front tires are gripping to the tarmac. So the car turns in. I'm going to release the throttle just a tiny bit. I should just be a tiny bit on throttle low, you know, from 100% down to about 5%. And this should carry some momentum. And that's what I'm doing right now. Once the car starts to turn in, I can then start to accelerate and lift off again just to avoid any issues. And this next big tree on the left-hand side is the closest one to the circuit. This is my accelerating marker. So I see it now. I'm being risky and starting to accelerate. As it hits the edge of your screen, you should 100% be accelerating, okay? Because you're going to make it out of this corner. Remember, Alsace is a very wide circuit. You can really, really maximize the width of these circuits. And this car drives beautifully. So actually, when you continue turning, the car just turns very nicely. And it will grip as well because the engine is over the rear wheels. And that's what we're doing right now. So here we go. We're full throttle at that moment in time. Look at this. We're going to make it round the corner. Not a problemo. Right, we're going to head over towards the left-hand side now then. We're coming up to one of my favorite corners on Alsace, actually. I really do like this corner because it's an interesting angle of attack. So on the left-hand side, just after the 100 board, we have the arrow. Alternatively, it's the end of the barrier there. You can see the yellow going into the grass on that left-hand side. So you're going to hit the brakes. You're going to follow the white line all the way to the curb, which is just ahead, and you're going to keep dropping the gears. Then what I want you to do is I want you to chuck the car in. The reason you go for the wider angle of attack is there's a dip in the middle of the corner. Now, if you come in too tight, that dip is just going to chuck you out. Essentially, you're pulling a wheelie off into the grass and crashing. You don't want that to happen. Wide angle of attack, it's the side of the car that hits the dip. Therefore, it compresses the car and you can go through the corner absolutely fine. That's what I'm doing right now. Notice I'm on the inside there and we can accelerate. If I'd have gone in a tighter line, I'd have just got off there. I'd be over here making, becoming a lawnmower essentially on that left-hand side. Right, we're going to turn in quite sharply here because it dips down again and the car will compress. And we need to get as far right to the possible now for the next brake marker, because this corner is a technical corner to try and get right. So initially, I was using those arrows in the distance that I've pinpointed there. So you might want to use those as a distance marker. However, that tree is the perfect brake marker for this corner. So you're going to go onto the brakes. You're going to stay in 4th gear for a bit longer here, because when you drop to 3rd, the car will rotate. If you remember turn 1, drop into 2nd gear, the car rotated. Same principle here. So, but we want to get towards that inside. Remember, Alsace is a wide track, so once we get to the inside, we can start to accelerate, and the car should go around the corner very nicely. And that's our goal here. So on the brakes now, hard on the brakes, then we start to release the brakes here. We drop to 3rd gear, notice there the car rotates. Now we're trying to let the car just do that rotation, staying above 70 miles an hour, and then we start to accelerate. We can use all the width of the circuit if we need it. There we go, look at that, get very close to the grass, and we can head over towards the left-hand side. And now we get to Alsace's Banky Boy. Banky Boy, of course, is on Lego Maggiore. This is Alsace's variation. Now, for this one, I've highlighted a tree on the right side. This is your liftoff marker. And then when you attack this corner, it's a bit of an interesting one, because if you're on a wheel, what you want to do is really overturn the steering wheel. Really overturn it. Use the camber of this corner to your advantage. When you overturn the wheel, the car just sticks even more. It's the way the Gran Turismo physics work. So if you overturn the wheel, the car will just keep on turning to go around the corner. If you're on controller, of course, you're just going to have to keep just hitting right on your stick or whatever you are using, because you don't have that advantage of overturning a car. But notice here, we turn in. We'll let the car roll a little bit now. Now, I should really be on throttle a bit more than I am, similar to what I did on the long left-hander. So I've lost a little bit of time there by not being on throttle. What I am looking for, though, is up ahead. So the curb on the inside, you can see the end of the curb up there. Once I start to see that and it becomes really obvious and like visible in my eye line, that's when I want to start accelerating, because the camber of the corner is going to keep the car turning right. So I can accelerate, knowing full well the car is going to make it around the corner. And that is what I'm looking for in the distance, okay? I see that, I start to accelerate. So let's continue on through this lap guide then, as we start to accelerate through the corner. I did lift there, didn't need to. Lifted again, didn't need to. Look how much of the track we still have available. Really didn't need to lift there. Critically here, don't cut this too much. If you're on the curb as you hit the end of it, it'll bounce you into the barrier. So just be careful of that. Either come off the curb early or come off it very late. Do not come off it at the very end of it, because that will bounce you off. Right, we get to this point here. So we've got the shed on the left-hand side right here. So this is where you're going to dab the brakes and try and get the car turned in. Now, we have a curb on the inside there, okay? Do not go on that curb if you're struggling with lap times, okay? Because if you go on that curb, as you bounce off it, the car's going to go all over the place while you're on the brakes. Lots of weight transition happening. Instead, if you dab the brakes and just get the car turned in and just clip the curb, what will happen there is you're in a straight line for the right-hander. Straight line braking, the most efficient way of braking. That's the goal with this corner every time you approach it. So we lift off there on the brakes a little bit. We get straight now. Now we can go hard on the brakes. We're aiming towards the corner. We're going to drop down to 2nd gear. As we get to the corner, we start to release the brakes. We'll let the car roll a little bit here just to get a bit of rotation with the weight transfer. Then we can start to accelerate. This car, once again, edging over the rear wheels, will beautifully accelerate out. It doesn't suffer from power oversteer at all. We head over towards the right-hand side then. Initially, you got the barrier going down if you want to use that. However, we have this other Armco, which just starts on that right-hand side. So we get to this point here, start the Armco. We're going to lift off a little bit, lift off and turn at the same time though, and the car should turn in very nicely. And then it'll rotate a little bit because it's weight transition, of course. You lift off and turn, the way it's going to shift from accelerating, it's going to sort of just do that. And that will allow the car then to get through this corner. It's uphill, so you want to try and carry as much speed as possible through this corner. 1 mile an hour extra gets you up the hill that little bit quicker and obviously saves you some time. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Notice that I'm on throttle as we continue on through here. Now we accelerate up the hill. We're going to use all of the track. If you go on the grass a little bit, that's absolutely fine. But if you can avoid it, it's even better, because what will happen there, if you go on the grass, you'll just start losing 100th here or there, all the way to the next braking zone. Right, we're over the crest of the hill now. We're looking downhill. Now, when you go downhill, always remember, if you try and be last of the late breakers, well, it obviously amplifies your braking because you're going downhill. So you brake 1 meter later, obviously it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 meters longer to brake. Now on the right side, we've got the barrier going into hay bales there on the right hand side. You could use this as a brake marker. Arguably, I've hit the brakes a little bit too early here. I really should have hit the brakes a tiny bit later. But as I say, it's very easy to outbrake yourself here. So I'm erring on the side of caution as I go onto the brakes. What you are going to want to do is try and follow the track a little bit to the left, but don't try and overturn the car. If you overturn the car, remember, you lose all braking efficiency. But we're going to try and go to the left a little bit to give us a better angle of attack. So there we go. We've got a little bit to the left. We're now going in a straight line. We start to release the brakes and we turn in. We clip the curb on the inside. We instantly start accelerating because this car is very balanced. We start accelerating to this point here. On the left-hand side, we've got the yellow barrier there started for the inside barrier. And for this moment in time, what I'm going to do is dab the brakes and chuck the car in. Why am I chucking the car in? Well, if I chuck the car in here, it should rotate and give me a very nice line on the exit to accelerate out of the corner and head towards the start-finish line. You could be too cautious on this left-hander. It's better to be a bit more aggressive on this particular left-hander at the end of the lap. Yes, you could invalidate your lap. Yes, you could hit a barrier, but there's a lot of time in being aggressive on this particular corner, and that's what I do right now. Notice there, I'm on the brakes, clip the curb, instantly 100% throttle, no delay whatsoever. I then get in the power band, and I can head towards the line. This was a 2-minute 8-point dead. Bit annoying I didn't get the 207. That's because I hit the brakes a little bit earlier on the previous corner, but it is what it is. Going to go into a fast lap now then. Remember, I use the traffic light at the end of the pit lane as a brake mark. Drop to second gear, late apex here. We clip the curb, we start to accelerate. Up to third gear we go, and now we can be a little bit balanced as we head up here then in terms of breathing. Over towards the left-hand side then, and we turn in. Not fully. Once we see the gantry up ahead, then we turn in. Keep as far left as possible. The tyre wall on the left is here, our brakes. In the middle of the track we go. We start to release the brakes, we turn in. Stay above 60 miles an hour, we start to accelerate. Use all of the circuit. Head over towards the right-hand side now then. Remember, gear tree there on the left. There it is. We're fourth gear, and we stay a little bit on throttle. There's the big tree. We can start to accelerate. Flat out. Through we go. Head over towards the left-hand side. Remember, the 100 board on the left. Just after that is an arrow. We use that, and we're going to hit the brakes. That's third gear. Later turn in here. Notice the weight transition. We clip the inside. Accelerate out. Stay off the end of the curve there, otherwise it'll bounce you weird. Over towards the inside here. Get in the dip. Over towards the right side. The tree on the right there. As it hits the edge of the screen, hit the brakes. Drop to third gear a little bit later. Get some rotation. Stay above 70 miles an hour. Start to accelerate. Head over towards the left-hand side. Remember, for this next corner, it's turn in, then lift off as that tree right there hits the edge of your screen. Now, just stay on the throttle a little bit here to give a bit of aggression. End of the curve there is your accelerating marker as we continue on through. Don't stay on the curve for too long on the left-hand side as we head towards the next corner. We're looking for the shed on the left-hand side. We can just see it now. As we get to that shed, lift off, turn, brake. And then brake hard when you get in a straight line. Second gear, start to release the brakes, let the car roll a little bit to allow some weight transition, and then accelerate, head over towards the right side. Start of the arm code, not the end of it. We're going to lift off, turn in, clip the curb on the inside, accelerate through the corner, go on the grass a little bit if you need to. Just make sure you're not oversteering as we go over the hill. So, end of the barrier as the hay bale start on the right hand side is what we're looking for as a brake marker. Just be cautious here on the brakes initially as we drop down to third gear. Release the brakes, turn in, clip the curb, start to accelerate a little bit. End of the barrier on the left hand side. We dab the brakes, we get really aggressive here. 100% throttle as we head towards the line. Once again, that's a 2 minute 8.0. Let's jump to Delta then and let's see how we can get that 2 minute 7 lap. Here we are in Delta then, and I've loaded the fastest lap in the world right now is Adam from Hungary with a 207.574, so nearly 5/10 of a second quicker than myself. Where is that time? Well, Delta will tell us where exactly that time is. And I think you can see it at the bottom, but we're going to go through the lap in a bit more detail, see where my weaknesses actually are. So heading towards turn number 1 then. And notice here, Adam as well takes a tighter line for turn 1. I think a wider line is better, but let's see this as we go into here then. So we are only 100th down there. We go through the corner and we are down by a tenth. So arguably that inside line, yes, is a bit slower in terms of apex speed. But as we get towards the exit, it's still a bit slower, to be fair. It's still a bit slower. We have more speed. However, that gap starts to reduce. So yes, we're 100th down, but arguably that distance, short distance, looks like it might be better. Something for me to work on. And the fact that I'm a 10th down on the exit means I need to practice turn 1 a bit more. And that's the nice part about this lap. If that's where my weakness is, I'll just keep hitting retry until I get it right. Right, let's go continue on with the lap then. Through the left we go in towards this right-hander. As we go through there, we do that so much better. Look at this. We do that so much better. Happy days indeed. What does Adam do differently? He drops to second gear. That costs Adam so much time. Look at the speed difference there. Costs so much time. Again, it took a tighter line, a wider line for me. Worked well. Happy days indeed. Through the left we go as we continue on there. So I gained that time back effectively on that right-hander. It's interesting to see, where my strengths and weaknesses are. Towards the right-hander, I love this corner. As we go through there, again, we are about equal. So the end of the lap must be where I'm really struggling here. As we go towards the left-hander then, slowing it down here. Oh, I do lose a little bit of time on that corner there. What happens here? So I'm on the brakes a little bit earlier as we get towards the apex of the corner. So I went too fast in, and on the exit, Adam's quicker. So I went fast in, slow out. Adam went slow in, fast out, which works out a little bit better. I'm going to head towards the right-hander here then, and this is where I think I struggled in the time trial. We'll see if this is the case. So we're going to go into here then as we go through there. We lose a little bit of time. Actually, not that much. I didn't actually lose as much time as I thought I did. Coolio, as we head towards the next corner then. Oh, we lose a lot of time in this section here. So let's have a look at this. We lose a 10th here. As we go into here, I've lifted off at this moment in time. Adam's still accelerating, so there's 4 miles an hour difference there. Onto the brakes we go. Adam's now going slower, so he's able to get to the apex on the inside a bit tighter. And you can see that with that yellow dotted line right there. So as we get to this point here, we're going to go through the corner. Adam's then exiting much quicker by taking a wider line. And then is ahead by 0.9 miles an hour there. Really interesting stuff. So I need to get this part done a little bit better. Interesting to see. So that is a weakness of mine I need to improve on. Arguably that's somewhere where you need to improve as well, because it's so hard to get it right. Getting the braking for that corner right. It's a right-hander with the little kink in it. Right, through the left we go then. We're 3/10 down at this moment in time, so we're going to head towards the... Well, we're actually losing speed all the way up here. Do you remember what I said? Carry as much speed as possible through here. Look at this, okay? So we get to this point here, gets to this point here. Adam's carrying more speed. Still carrying more speed. Still carrying more speed in the 100 miles an hour range. And all the way up here then is just acceleration away. Acceleration away. So we arguably lose a 10th of a second there. We're going to go on the brakes now. Just a little bit before Adam does. But remember, I did say I hit the brakes a little bit early. Through the right we go. It does cost us some time here. Wow. Adam carries so much speed through that corner. But arguably that speed isn't worthwhile, because on the exit it says 4.5 temps there. So arguably the extra speed didn't matter because I had a better exit on the second part there. So critically, the critical areas of strength that I need to focus on, and somewhere for you to look at potentially here. The uphill section, the left-hander, needs focus there. The braking into that hairpin to the right, I definitely need to improve there. And then my focus is also going to be all the way back to the beginning. Turn number 1. I lose a 10th of a second there. So they're my key focus areas. They should be key focus areas for you, in my opinion, as well, because they are some very important corners, and Adam gets it right. But that is going to be it for our slice here with Delta. Next up then, we're going to a combo we have done before, but this time I'm in a different car. It's Dragon Trail Seaside and Group 4 Machinery. So here we are on the start-finish straight. I'm in that Mazda Atenza Group 4 car there, plus 5 brake bands. You may remember last time I was in the GT by Citroen race car. We have similar brake markers here, so you can use these brake markers for multiple cars. Okay. As we head towards turn 1, we're already at our brake marker. So on the left, we've got the orange Armco. That's what I use in terms of a brake marker. You may want to use the start of the curb on the right-hand side as a brake marker. Now, you will see some of the top times really cut the inside of this chicane, but it brings a bit of luck involved, because if the car bounces in a certain way, you're going to spear off to the left or right, depending on how the weight bounces across the curb. So I actually recommend not cutting the inside, but just going onto the curb. So not going on the inside of it, just on it, on the left part of this. So we drop down to second gear here. We start to release the brakes. The car will turn in. This car loves trail braking. I'm going to accelerate a little bit now, go up to third gear, and we want to hook our right tyres on the inside of that curb. Hook it. Don't go fully over it, but just hook your tyres in. It will rotate the car. It's a really unique trick that you can use here at Dragon Trail Seaside in the Atenza and a few other cars as well to really get the car rotated. Front-wheel drive cars will benefit massively from this trick. We're going to head towards the kink then. For this one, just make sure your right tyres do not touch the curb as you come back on the circuit. That way you avoid the bounce. If they do, you're going to bounce all over the place and arguably end up in the grass right there. So we have our two markers here. We've got the start of the grass and the end of the grass. You want to brake somewhere in the middle of these two, okay? Arguably, an earlier braking zone or marker is better here, and that's what I found, because you want to get your tyres hooked on the inside curb again if you can for this right-hander. I don't do it on this particular lap. However, if you do it, you'll have an astonishing first sector. One of my previous laps was an amazing first sector because my tyres hooked on that inside. We go hard on the brakes. When we get to second gear, we start to release them. The car will then want to turn. As I say, if I got my tyres hooked on the inside there, the car would rotate a bit more, arguably where those tyre marks actually were. We continue on through the corner now, and that is going to be a 36.0 from memory. So we're a little bit behind rank 1 in the world as far as I'm aware, but we'll compare that in Delta and see where they actually get that time and whether they're hooking on that inside. Through the little right we go then, and we're going to head to one of my favourite sets of corners in Gran Turismo 7. The S's here at Dragon Trail Seaside. So we have the orange painted barrier on the left. They're throughout Dragon Trail Seaside here, so you can just pick and use these how you like. However, when we get to this point here, we're going to hit the brakes. We're going to trail brake all the way into the corner. Arguably, you want to release the brakes quite quickly and let the car roll in a little bit as well, because with the tender, if you're 100% on the brakes, the car does not want to turn. The front wheels are fully loaded with the engine weight, everything on it, it does not want to turn. The second you release the brakes, go to 50, 40, 30%, the car will then go, oh, okay, I can turn a little bit, and that's what I do here. Notice that I'm trail braking, and then release the brakes, let the car roll, getting my tyres a little bit on the inside, not going over it. Now we can accelerate through the corner. Over towards the right-hand side we go, not cutting the inside there, because it really forces the car to bounce out, and then we're maximising the revs here as we head up to the left-hander. Look at about 122 miles an hour for the gear shift if you are looking for a speed here, which is around 197 kilometers an hour. As we continue on through then, I'm going to head down to what Lady Tidge calls Cruise Corner, and you can see that with the cruise ship in the distance. So, for this corner, it's very much about your line. You take a really good line here, you can maximize the speed through the corner. If you take a tight line, you're not going to get a good exit at all here, and you're going to lose all the speed all the way down to the last corner. That's how significant this is. So we've gone past the 150 board. On the right-hand side, the cliff goes down a little bit. You can just see it going down there. This is my brake marker for Cruise Corner. I'm going to follow the curb all the way down until I get to second gear. And then when we get to second gear, we start to release the brakes and get the car turned in. When we release the brakes and turn in, we want the weight to transition so the car just jolts a little bit to the right, and that reduces the understeer and allows us to accelerate out. Why do we have understeer? Well, the racing hard tyres are a bit atrocious. So we're hard on the brakes now. We go to release the brakes then, and we took the car in. We clip the curb, and now we can accelerate out. Remember with this master returns as well, if you hit maximum revs, the car will also rotate. So I'm trying to do that here to make sure I stay on the circuit, and I do that right there. So, the chicane of death. This is an interesting one because you do this flat out. So, we're going to go into the right, which is absolutely fine. We will be going up a gear just before we start the turn-in. So, we're going to go over towards the left-hand side. You're going to see the metal gantry there with nothing on it. Just before that pole is when we want to turn in here. We want to cut a little bit at the left, but staying on the curb. Straight line this little bit here. Make sure your right tyres do not come on the curb, similar to the kink. And then we can continue on through here and head towards the final corner. Very easy to get the chicane wrong there by turning in too much and getting your left tyres hooked on, which bounces you to the right, or arguably, as you go through the right part of the chicane, getting your right tyres hooked on the curb, which bounces to your left. You just have to be careful about tyres hooking here, there, and everywhere. We get to the final corner then. So you've got two markers here that you can use. We've got the 100 board if you want to use it as a distance marker. It's not quite at the 100 board. It's before it. It's where this cliff goes down there on that left-hand side, what I've highlighted. I use the cliff here. It's very obvious. It's very clear as a brake marker. So you're going to aim for the middle of the circuit. You're not going for a tight line. You're going for the middle of the circuit in terms of where you're aiming for. It's a later apex on this corner just due to the way the Atenza is. And arguably some of the MR cars as well will need that later apex to avoid the little bump that's on the exit. So middle of the circuit we're aiming for. We're down to second gear. We start to release the brakes a little bit now. Let the car turn in. As you see it there, it turned in nicely. We can start to accelerate very quickly. And then we can use all of the curb on the exit. And that's exactly what we do here at Dragon Trail Seaside. We'll go to 100% then in terms of speed for this lap. We're going to cut the inside a little bit here, making sure our left tyres do not touch the curb as we head towards the line. And this is, lucky for some, 146.777. Let's go into a fast lap then. Once again, +5 brake balance. You can see that down in that bottom right-hand side here. As we head towards turn 1, we're looking on the left-hand side for the Armco. There it is. We're going to hit the brakes, drop down to second gear. Don't cut the corner, just clip the curb nicely. Get your right tyres hooked on the inside here, and you'll have a better exit and not understeer off. We continue on through here. We're going to head towards the kink. Remember, you need to straddle this curb on the exit of the curb. So make sure your right tyres do not touch the curb as you leave the circuit. Start of the grass there, we're going to hit the brakes. Get your right tyres hooked on the inside curb here. You'll have a better sector 1. A little trick to try out there. We're going to continue on through here. This is a 36.0. We're going to head towards the S's. We're going to use the orange painted barrier on the left-hand side. As it hits the edge of the screen, we're going to go onto the brakes. Trail brake, trail brake, trail brake. Release the brakes, let the car roll. We start to accelerate. Over towards the right-hand side, make sure we don't cut the curb, but we do touch the curb. Over towards the left-hand side now, 122 miles an hour, 197 kilometers an hour is what we're looking for in terms of speed before we go up to 5th gear and head down to Cruise Corner. Looking on the right, we've got this mound here. As it drops off, it's going to be our braking marker. There it is. It's as we hit the brake, second gear, release the brakes, turn in, clip the curb, start to accelerate. Maximize the revs here, just to get that tiny bit of rotation as we continue on through. Heading towards the chicane of death. Remember, we have that metal gantry. We're going to turn in just before we get to it and change gear at the same time and be in 5th gear. There it is, 5th gear, turn in, staying on the curb. Through we go. Make sure our right tyres don't touch the curb on that right-hand side. And now we can head towards the final corner. The 100 board is a distance marker. Alternatively, you got the cliff as it dives down on the left-hand side. We can see it right now. There it dives down. We hit the brakes, middle of the circuit. Second gear, release the brakes, get the car turned in, start to accelerate as we go closer to that curb. Continue on through here and head towards the start-finish line. Make sure you cut a little bit on the inside there. If you are struggling with straddling curbs there, don't cut the inside. It says you're like 100th, and that is it. Let's jump to Delta then, and let's see where we can improve a little bit more. Here we are in Delta then. I've loaded the fastest lap in the world right now, which is a 146.477, so exactly 3 tenths quicker than my lap. But can we see where our weaknesses are in the lap to see if we can improve that a little bit more? That is the question, and that's what Delta helps us out with. So we're going to head towards turn number 1 here then, and we're literally looking at the 0.01 as our benchmark. So we're going to go onto the brakes right now. We brake a tiny bit earlier, nothing major here in terms of braking, and I can already see what they're doing. Look at this. You remember when I said they cut the inside? They're really cutting the inside. They get lucky with the bouncing, so they're going to have a really good chicane here. This is where that time's going to be, I'm sure. So as we go through here, yeah, look at that, 10 per second. So there is time there, but you've got to get lucky with the bouncing of the curb. So that is where I lose time very quickly as we continue on towards the kink. We're not going to lose time here. Now, we're going to go on the brakes right now. And we brake a little bit earlier than they do, so we're slowing the car down. And as we go through here, did they get on the inside? Again, look, they're just on the inside, so they're going to hook their tyres on. I reckon I lose all my time in this first set then. So we're, 1.13 down by the exit. We've lost 0.07 there. So we've lost nearly 2 tenths of a second in Sector 1 alone. That's where I need to practice. And this is all about getting that trick on the inside here. And also, you know, if you want to risk it, you can go for that cut on the inside there. We're going to head towards the S's then. 2 tenths down here. Let's see how well I do the S's. So we are another half tenth down there. We lose it on the first part here in terms of speed. So we're going to go on the brakes. We get to this point here. And they're just carrying more speed. They're carrying more speed. And because they're carrying more speed, they can carry it all the way through towards cruise corner. Obviously, the speed starts to marry up with the hitting of the wall of air that we do in Group 4 machinery that we've talked about before. Right, cruise corner then. We're going to go on the brakes about the same time here. Nothing major. We go through there. We don't lose that much at all. We go through the chicane of death. We don't lose anything there because it's all flat out. Of course it is. As we head towards the final corner then. And we're 2.5 tenths down. So arguably we're going to lose half a tenth there. Yes, we do. What is the reason for that? They take a wide line in. Remember I said middle of the circuit. They go for a wider line of attack. And that is going to give them a better exit, I'm sure. Yes, a tiny bit better of an exit. And that's just going to carry their speed to the line. So critically, my first sector is my weakness. And arguably, if you want to focus on the first sector, practicing that first chicane, getting it right, because that's where most of my time is lost. Here, I lose a temp straight off the bat. If you want to practice that, hit and retry isn't that bad because you can keep hitting retry over and over and over again. Obviously, try the hooking your tyre in. This is where you just get your tyre on the inside, not fully go over the mount of the curb. Because if you go fully over it, when you come back on, it'll bounce all over the place. But if you just get your tyres hooked nicely, hey, guess what? It pulls you around. It's a bit like a trick in the old Gran Turismo 5 and Rome circuit, if you remember those days. That's going to be it in terms of Daily Race B then. For Daily Race C, we're doing something slightly differently because we are at the Nürburgring in reverse, which is kind of insane to be honest with you. We also in Group 3 machinery. I chose the Porsche 911 GT3R. Let me give you some hints and tips for the Nürburgring and let me help you out in terms of picking out brake markers to try and get some all-important improved lap times. So here we are on the Dossinger Straight then. We are following a ghost here and this is a raw footage essentially of my lap. Now we're going to pick out some key brake markers here that you can use all around the Nürburgring in terms of picking out where you should brake, how you should brake, etc. First of all, distance markers. We have a 50 board on the right side. That's what I would use for turn 1 right here. And for this one, you are going to take a wider line through. Watch what I do right now. Wider line. I've not actually gone to the inside apex yet. And then we're going to dab the brakes again and then chuck the car in. You see how well rank 1 does it there. It's absolutely insane in their lap. As you go up to this point here, you're going to hit the brakes and then we're going to get on the mini carousel. We're not going through all the corners here as this is a picking out markers situation. So one thing to look at as well are starts of curbs. Start the curb on the inside there. Really good marker for this right-hander. You're going to find as you go through the Nürburgring, insides of curbs, outsides of curbs. There are all these kinds of markers that you can pick out for each individual corner. So as you improve your lap, you go, what marker can I use here? What marker can I use there? You can pick these out very quickly. Just be careful of this jump here. Lift off if you need to, because it can force the car to just lift off a little bit too much as we go into this left-hander. Arguably, or as you know, of course, as you go up here, this is where the jump is normally when you're going the other way. Through the right-hander we go. Now, we're going to get to one of the most dangerous corners on this circuit, okay? And once again, we're looking for starts of curbs. This time, it's literally as it comes into vision. So this is the sort of slight left into right-hander just before YouTube corner. This corner is very easy to get wrong. Look, the barrier's right there. You can go head on into that barrier. I'm going to continue on through here then. I'm going to pick out another brake marker in a second, okay? This brake marker is all around the Nürburgring, both front ways and this reverse way right now. Are these distance markers? How far into the Nürburgring are you? Well, on the left-hand side, we have these white signs. Look out for them. Very good brake markers in terms of the Nürburgring, okay? So use them as brake markers as we continue on through. Now, when you are doing the Nürburgring, you need to just remember the circuit going in the opposite direction. How would you normally do these corners? Because a lot of these corners, you are doing the same way, just backwards. So you start to think about it, it makes sense. And the carousel is no exception. So once again, I talked about the distance markers on the left. You can use those. However, this time, I look for that distance marker and I look for the curb going straight. That's when I'm going to brake. Remember, braking efficiently in a straight line. I'm trying to oversaw the car down now to get on the banking of the carousel. I nearly fell off it, but I stayed on. Just be careful on the exit, of course, as you leave the carousel. What's the Nürburgring also famous for in terms of what's on the circuit? These graphics paint on the tarmac. So this is a really good brake marker you can pick out on certain corners as well. So I'm using this right here, and I'm going to take a very wide line for this corner. Remember, this is one that tightens. This is one that opens up going the other way, of course. So that's why you think about this sort of layout. We're going to fast forward now, so you can lift off in parts of this one. But this is all downhill. Remember, this is all uphill when you're going the front way. This is downhill going this way, so we're carrying a lot of speed right now. Nearly going off. Now, we always pinpoint out trees. This is no exception. So there's obviously a few odd trees. Then we get into this big woodland forest here at the Nürburgring. Very obvious, very clear brake marker that you can use at the Nürburgring are some of these trees on the right-hand side or left-hand side, depending on if it's left or right in the corner. We're going to continue on through here then, and then we're going to go to one of the critical markers at the Nürburgring, okay? On the right-hand side here, we have a place where the barrier has been repaired. This corner as well, dangerous corner because you can't see it. Look for these barrier repairs. They signal that the corner is coming up because in real life, someone's just gone too wide there and hit the barrier, or, you know, just ran too fast through the corner and hit the barrier on the exit. So they're very obvious in terms of when a corner is coming up, and they're all over the place at the Nürburgring. You can even see them now as we go fast forward through the lap a little bit here, okay? So, foxhole, again, avoid some of the curbs here. The curbs can shut you off very quickly. Going uphill at the foxhole, very weird. You can use some gantries as well. You may have seen that here. We're going to head towards Flood Plateau here, and I'm going to show you this is literally just a slight lift, which is insane when I think about it, because initially I was braking for this corner. But when you get to here, just lift off, and let the car go through here. Can you do it flat? Maybe. You can probably do it quicker than I did right there, but it is what it is. Right, this corner here, this is an interesting corner. Make sure you turn in very early for this left-hander. Again, using starts and curbs, it will help you there. I turned in a little bit too late one time. You just run way too far deep then into the corner. You have to turn in early for some of these S's. Just think about when you go forward, you're turning in early for each one of them, and it's all about momentum. You get one of them wrong, you get all of them wrong. You can lose a lot of time very quickly. As you see versus the Ghost, who absolutely nails it and is far, far, far ahead. We're going to head up to Sabine Schmidt's corner, of course. And critically, what I want to point out again are these barrier repairs. Look, there's one there on that left-hand side. Very obvious brake marker. That's what we're going to use for this corner. And it works well. It works absolutely fine. You can use it as a brake marker, and that's what I'm going to use now as I go on the brakes. We start to release the brakes, we turn in. Now, let's just say you're using them, but you're braking a bit too early. Just brake a bit after them. That's what they're there for. They're key markers here. We're going to continue on through here. We're going to head towards the chicane. Of course, distance markers, 50 board. We can chuck it into the left. Then over towards the right-hand side. I love this chicane. Much better than the F1 layout as we continue now towards the left and then right. And then we've got the hairpin, of course, which you take a wide line at, in my opinion, and we head to the Mercedes-Benz Arena. So for this one, remember, a tight line for this first part gives you a good line for this right-hander, which, remember, we cut normally on a lap, but I don't do it here. I should have cut a bit more on the inside. Now, we're going to approach the next corner. Remember, looking for a curve on the inside here. Remember how we do this corner? We let the car roll through the corner, going front. Going reverse, it's the exact same way. Now, this corner, very clunky corner, because as you come into here going forward, obviously the car dips and goes round. Here, it's very clunky. You just have to be careful. We're going to get to our final brake marker then, white lines. This white line, a critical marker for this corner, because if you brake even remotely 5 meters after this line, you're going off on this corner. There's a bump in the circuit. You just see it right there. So just be careful as you come into here. It's the end of the lap as well. You don't want to ruin the end of the lap. Don't run too wide on the exit there because there are track limits and that will give you a 0.5 second penalty. You don't want to ruin a 7-minute lap. Anyway, that is how you do the Nürburgring in terms of picking out brake markers. Lots in there. Distance markers, repairs in the barriers, anything like that. Signs as well in terms of the distance. That's it then for this week's guide. I do hope you have enjoyed it. Remember, take some of those key tips away for the Nürburgring and you should be able to get your lap time down very quickly. Very big time gaps there at the moment at the Nürburgring. So you can move up the board very, very, very quickly by even just focusing on one sector or one corner on the lap. Because I focused initially on sector 1 and I instantly gained so much time. It also lets you learn the car a little bit and how it can handle the rest of the circuit, because sector 1 will handle the same as nearly every other sector on the circuit. Because it's the same weather, same time of day, therefore the same grip levels. Do keep that in mind. I've been Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tishney. I do hope this video has been help to you, and I do hope it helps you improve your driver rating and get some wins in Gran Turismo 7. We hope to see you once again for some more weekly race guides next week. And once again, if you do have any comments, do let us know down below. Like and subscribe to the video as always, and we'll see you next week for some more weekly race guides.